and welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing another TV show review. This is for season 3 of Trollhunters, Tales of Arcadia on Netflix, Guillermo del Toro's show. And if you are unfamiliar with our TV show reviews, most of them, especially anything past the first season, is spoiler filled. So if you haven't watched the show and are interested in not knowing spoilers, click away, go watch it, come back.
Yeah, we have previous reviews of the other seasons, so
which are also spoiler filled.
Put them up there. If you have watched some of the show, then you can go watch those first. So let's jump right into the plot of this season. We pick up right after season 2. So everyone's been kicked out of Troll Market. Gunmar has taken over, and things aren't looking too great. They're kind of out on their own, trying to figure out how to defeat Gunmar.
We also had another ally come in this season, which was Merlin. So we've had a bit of this kind of lore happen throughout the past couple of seasons, just with certain references here and there and things like that. But he full-fledged came in, and of course we had the villain Morgana along with that, which was an interesting add-in. I will say I'm a little played out with that, like, kind of thing.
Yep.
The whole Merlin and Morgana, and I don't know, maybe it's because I've watched too many things that relate to that. But it was okay.
Yeah, it was okay. I feel like Merlin was not what I expected based on how they portrayed him when they mentioned him previously in previous seasons. But besides that, I guess he was okay. And towards the tail end of the season, I think the biggest plot development was that in order to beat Gunmar and beat Morgana and save everyone, Jim makes the choice that Merlin gives him actually to become not really half troll, half human, I guess. Part troll, part human.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he goes ahead and does it. So you end up getting Troll Jim, and while I thought it was it made sense for it to go that direction, I also felt like it felt very rushed.
We'll talk about that in a little bit. The rushed aspect. Yeah, Troll Jim was a little bit of an odd thing to throw in. So if you are unfamiliar with the future plans for this show, this is the final season of Trollhunters. However, there are some tie-in series coming soon. We'll talk about that at the end of the video. But so it made sense to me at the end of this that he would become this troll version, because we are closing out this current storyline, so he doesn't necessarily have to find a magical way to turn back or something like that. And plot-wise, the finale was the other big aspect of this season, and I will say the finale was pretty badass. I think the last couple of episodes were my favorite out of the whole season. Season started medium for me, enjoyment level. It kind of dipped a little bit there in the middle, and then by the end it skyrocketed. They saved all their budget for the last couple episodes,
they really did.
And they were very good.
I felt like the last 2 episodes were literally all fight scene and action.
It was huge fight scenes and just lots of mayhem, and it was great.
Well, it didn't close out quite how I expected. I thought it was good. It was a little too happy of an ending for me.
Well, it's not over yet. This was
Which
just
is true.
The Trollhunter conclusion.
So I
treat this as part 1 and 3.
Yeah, and so I have to remember that. But for Jim's story, I thought it was a good closing point, even though it was very clear that that was not necessarily the end of his story. One of my favorite things about this show is how it subverts expectations. Season 2 was very good at that, and Season 3 was not as good at that. But one thing I really did like in the finale, and this is a big spoiler, but Morgana ends up, kicking Jim's butt, and he's, totally passed out, actually.
Even as, his amped-up troll version.
Yeah, he got wrecked. And so it was pretty cool that Claire pretty much 1v1s Morgana, and she's the one to actually defeat the big bad of the show. So this big bad they were leading up to, and Jim's been training all this time. It was kind of cool that they subverted that and had Claire be the one to actually defeat her.
So that wraps up our thoughts kind of the overarching plots. Let's talk about other aspects of this season that we did or did not enjoy. So a big thing going into the season that I was hesitant about is that they were changing the main voice actor. So Anton Yelkin, who played Jim for the first 2 seasons, passed away. 2016, I believe, from a freak accident, and so they had to replace his voice acting. And the way they did it in the show, I actually thought was a very well done, smooth, and organic way of doing it, with him having some weird thing that happened that changed his voice. And so it was good that they put it in how they put it in. I think it was the best they could have done with the situation, but it was still very sad. And the new voice actor just didn't have quite as much oomph as Anton. You can't really replace him very well.
Yeah, I felt like Anton had such a unique voice that the other guy just didn't have. Like, there was a couple times in scenes with the new voice actor when he was talking, when other people were at the same time. Like, he got totally lost. I didn't even realize it was that troll hunter talking.
I don't think he did a terrible job. I think it would have been just fine if we'd started with him, but just going from Anton's, like Steven said, unique voice to his, it was a little bit of a downgrade.
I also... Obviously, they didn't have Anton's lines, but I'm surprised they didn't just introduce Troll Jim sooner in the season and have the troll transformation be the switch to the new voice actor.
It just might not have worked out plot-wise.
But minor complaints.
So one of my biggest complaints for this season is the writing. I felt like the writing in season 1 was pretty top-notch for a children's show, and I felt like season 2 kept with that pretty well, and then season 3... I don't know, like a lot of the comments and just other little things just seemed a little lower quality, and like they had more things like fart jokes and things like that. It felt much more targeted towards kids, whereas I felt like the first 2 seasons felt like they were kid-friendly, but very adult-friendly at the same time.
I almost felt like they were trying to squeeze everything into one season and 13 episodes, to me at least. So the way they wrote that, I felt like season 2, if you go back and watch a review, they did some really cool episodes and took some big chances, like where you watch an episode and you only get half the story, so you're super confused till you watch the next one and get to see all the other stuff happening around those characters. And nothing like that really came up this season. It felt very straightforward. Like, they didn't really take any chances or try to do anything really out of the ordinary in terms of their storytelling. It felt very straightforward. And unfortunately, that makes it feel a little bland as well.
It felt a little bit more like a generic run-of-the-mill kid show rather than the very unique and original thing that it started as.
One thing I also noticed is that the animation quality of the show started pretty rough, actually. The first half of the season felt like there was a noticeable difference in the quality, and we even mentioned in season 2 actually that halfway through season 2 they like had a weird like upgrade in quality, and all the characters seemed like a little shinier and everyone looked a little better, and it was almost like they went back to their old versions, and especially towards the finale you could tell where they saved their budget for, because even the fight scenes, things like that, the animation wasn't very good, and then at the end, like in the last 3 episodes, all the fighting stuff, it looked phenomenal.
It was fantastic. It was way closer to the earlier season's great quality and even beyond that.
Yeah, it was like Pixar quality fight scenes there at the end. Like, you could tell they spent a ton of time making sure that those big epic fights looked good, and they did, but it seemed like it was a little bit of a detriment to the earlier parts of the season. So for the final season of the show, I feel like it was good, and I appreciated getting an ending to the story. I think the unfortunate passing of Anton really affected the production. It seems a little bit like they cut the story short or tried to push everything into one season.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they'd originally planned to go beyond these 3 seasons or if they didn't. I can't find any information about it online. I just know about what's coming next, not what this was originally supposed to be.
So, I think this is probably the most flawed season of the show. I think it lacks some of the charm of season 1 and the originality of season 2. But if you enjoyed those first 2 seasons, I think it's worth seeing it through to its conclusion. And we definitely enjoyed seeing like Jim and Claire and Toby and all of them and their story come to a close. And I'm glad we did get to see that.
So with that being said, let's talk about what's next in this universe. Like I mentioned earlier, we are getting 2 other shows that they're not spin-offs, they're continuations. Like I said, Trollhunters is a part 1, and the next 2 shows are part 2s and 3s. So we are going to have a alien-centric show called 3 Below, and we've already been introduced to the main characters at the end of Trollhunters season 3. And then after that will be Wizards, which is going to continue the whole wizard concept from this one. And all 3 of those are going to have a big epic conclusion to them at the end of Wizards, from what I can tell with the information that's currently available. So I'm actually really excited about it. I think it kind of helps with the sting of this season not being so good, that we're going to get this continued storyline and also get a switch in kind of genres. We're going from a fantasy to a sci-fi, which I am all about.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Typically, for your guys' information, I'm pretty against, like, cinematic universes.
I like them.
I think people try too hard to create them, and it feels very ham-fisted.
But in Guillermo, we trust.
Which is true, and I appreciate that they did use an episode in the final season to introduce those characters, but they didn't necessarily ham-fist it like, oh, these people will definitely roll into a spinoff. It was more like, why did these characters pop up?
Which I think that can also be a problem, though, because unless you've seen... The only reason I know about these other 2 shows is because I follow Guillermo on Twitter, and I saw him post about it. That's the only reason I knew about it. I feel like they should have put in something towards the end that were like, they will return, which we don't know if these characters will return, but you could have said the 2 characters we were introduced to will return or something like that. Like, if I had not had previous knowledge, I would have been like, why did you introduce these 2 characters that are weird and not explained and then not do anything with them and then the show ends? What?
Which is true, and that's how it felt watching it until we realized a little bit through, we're like, I think these people are aliens. And we're like, oh, it's for the alien show that we know is coming next. And I'm excited for the shows and to see where the story of this universe goes, because I felt like they've done a pretty good job without, like, trying to create the cinematic universe of Bill rolling into that.
It'll be more telling when all 3 conclude and see how they all tie together. So that concludes Trollhunters Season 3 and Trollhunters as a show. If you watched all 3 seasons, please let us know your thoughts. We would love to talk to you about it in the comments. That is why we do this. We would love to chat with you. But yeah, that's our thoughts. Let us know if you agree. We had a good time, even though the 3rd season wasn't the best.
But if you have stuck with us through our reviews of all 3 seasons of Trollhunters, please leave us a like. It really lets us know that you guys enjoy this kind of content. And click the subscribe button. We're going to probably be watching these shows and reviewing them. So if you want to stay tuned through the whole cinematic universe of Guillermo, then click that subscribe button. And we have a lot of other videos on the channel. If you guys want to see some of those, you guys can click right over there, and we'll see you next time.